Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am here and excited to introduce you to Shayna Labadie. Thank you. Labadie, who is the owner, CEO of Speech Therapy Santa Cruz, right here in Santa Cruz. And I'm just going to dive right in and start asking you a bunch of questions.
Sure.
Well, let's start actually in the beginning. What is your job? How would you describe what you do?
All right, I'm a speech language pathologist.
Okay.
So I help people with their speech. I start as early, I can work with kids as early as 1. Some people can work with infants, but I start at 1 until 100.
100?
Well, if someone lives that long.
And they would have had bad speech for that long.
Well, if you're working with the older people, I'm not working on lisps at that point. But I'd be working on, maybe if you had a swallowing disorder, something like that after a stroke. I used to do some swallowing when I worked at a nursing home. This was about 5 years ago. And I would do swallowing, or if they had aphasia or memory, things like that. I wasn't doing articulation. What I do now is half my kids I see are autistic, and the other half I work with speech sound disorders, so different like lisps or R's or stuttering, things like that.
How did you get into this line of work?
Sure. Well, I think as far as I can remember, I always noticed people's speech impediments. I would notice, I'm like, oh, they can't say their R's, or they have a lisp. And my mom would point it out too. She was very aware, and I just have always known, and I could hear it a mile away.
Yeah.
Some therapists, they have to train themselves. I didn't need any training in them.
Yeah. You're like, their speech is messed up.
Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of tools or lessons or teaching, how do you work with these children so that they can, I'm going to just say children because
they're mostly children.
Yeah,
mostly children.
How do you work with them? What tools do you give them so that they can kind of combat and learn the proper way to speak?
Sure. Well, usually, I get a referral, and someone's sometimes from a dentist or a teacher. So basically, I should tell you, I serve kids. I see them in their school sometimes. People hire me and I just go into their school or preschool. I see them in their homes, and I also do a lot of teletherapy too, which is great. A lot of people may not think it's as effective, but it really is. You just hop on. I could hear them, especially because they're not in masks. I'm not in masks. I can see them really well.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of drill. So basically, the patients, I get a referral, and then I find out what's wrong. Sometimes I do an evaluation. Sometimes they come in with an evaluation, but I am constantly evaluating them as I go along. I'm like, okay, now they have this sound mastered. Let's get the other sound in. Sometimes it's just one single sound error, like an R, like wabbit for rabbit. Sometimes but with the R, there's so many different positions. It's like, okay, now that you've fixed the beginning R, rabbit, sometimes they don't have the R at the end, like car, they'll say call. So it's like, okay, you have to fix that part. So it's so many different types of R. Or then R's in words like green and the blends.
Yeah.
Can you say rabbit?
Rabbit.
Okay. In order to say a proper R, we have to get our sides of our tongue all the way in the back, like this. Let me hear you say That's right. Wait, try again. Our sides have to touch in the back teeth. That's it. That was it. Do it again. Perfect. Now say rabbit.
Rabbit.
Oh, Grayson, that's great. Do it again. Rabbit.
Rabbit?
Yeah, say rabbit 3 times.
Rabbit.
Good. Now say car.
Car.
Arrange. Perfect.
Yeah.
And usually I see kids 1 to 2 times a week. Minimum at least 3 months. If it's just one sound, I could probably get them out in 3 months. Sometimes I could have them as long as 1 year to 2 years, depending on how complex the case is.
What is your favorite part of the job?
I love when I could finally exit a kid and be like, yes, good.
Yeah.
I've cured a kid.
Yeah.
It makes me happy because I know socially they'll feel better about themselves. And I love seeing when they actually seeing the progress they make. That's my favorite part.
Yeah. So we were talking earlier about these people coming to you for help and not even hearing that they're saying it wrong, even though you and I can tell. So how do they figure out, well, I know their parents are involved or whatever, but how do they figure out that they have a speech impediment and that they need to come see you? And how do you get them to recognize that the way in which they're saying it is not the correct way?
Well, okay, first, there's a few things. One, some parents don't even recognize that their kid has a speech impediment. So let's pretend the parent doesn't even know. And I'm at the park, and I go, hi, I just want to introduce myself. I'm sorry, but I'm a speech therapist, and just in case you haven't heard, I noticed, that your kid has a speech, they have a lisp or whatever.
Yeah.
Has your child ever been in therapy? They're like, what? This happened over Christmas. I was at dinner, and I noticed, it was a work thing, and I heard that her child had a lisp, and she's like, I am shocked. The dentist never said anything, the doctor, like, what? My kid has a lisp? I'm like, yeah. And I'm actually watching her swallow pattern, and she's actually swallowing wrong too. It's called a tongue thrust. That's like when your tongue touches your bottom teeth like this, and they're swallowing in the wrong place instead of at the roof of your mouth, which is kind of common.
Wow.
So anyhow, so I tell her, and she's like, I am shocked. Well, we need to get her help right away. I'm like, sure. So anyhow, she's on my caseload now, and I'm working with her, but she didn't have a clue. And then I had to...
And the parents didn't either.
No, the
so
parents
it's not just that the person in treatment might not hear it,
right.
but the people around them
Yeah,
don't hear
so
it.
first I have to tell the parents if they're not aware.
Yeah.
And then once they are, then I have to convince the kid. And it's very important that they know they have a speech problem so they can fix it. If they don't hear themselves, they'll never even... It's so important. So...
Right.
So I show, sometimes I have to record them, and then they watch themselves. I'm like, do you see how your tongue came forward? Do you hear how you're saying soup instead of soup? I go, we have to fix that. Say the president lives in the White House.
The president lives in the White House.
Nice job. Getting that tongue behind her teeth sounds perfect. Say, she drank apple juice.
She drank apple juice.
Nice job. I'll say it wrong lots of times. And then I make them, okay, is this right? Or tell me if I'm doing a good job or a bad job.
Yeah.
And so once they can recognize it from me, then they have to recognize it from themselves. And then once they can finally hear the distinction, what a proper sound is, then we could go from there. But if they don't know, then I can't even fix it. I have to make sure they
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So start at the beginning. That's
yeah, and then I have them rate them. How do you think you did on that R? Or how do you think you did on the S? I'm saying those two sounds because those are primarily the ones I work with. The
common ones. Yeah.
Those are the long-lasting ones that should be gone by 6 years old.
Okay.
But sometimes they linger.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think, oh, I'll just wait and I'll wait and see. But really, at 6 years old, you're not going to outgrow it.
Okay, so at 6,
you need to have all your sounds in.
Yes.
Ideally by 5.
Okay.
By 5. But if you
don't, who do you call?
You call me. Shayna Labadie at Speech Therapy Santa Cruz. And it's so important. A lot of people are like, but my doctor's never said anything. And that's very true. The doctors don't often.
Why don't the doctors say anything?
It's so frustrating. I really don't know. I think they go in for, they go in for their wellness checks.
Right.
They care more about maybe the language development side more than the articulation. So if they're not speaking, then that's a
red flag.
Yeah. You say characteristics of autism.
Oh, that's a characteristic of autism.
Yeah. So you start seeing some characteristics. And I work with, like I said, half my kids are autistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So do you ever see your students, like after you have helped them overcome, like years later, months later, do they ever come back to you and you get to see like
their
progress?
Great. I love it. And I, touch base with the parents because then you start to build a relationship with them. It's so great to hear them like, look at you, you're just speaking so perfectly, and I love it. Oh. Yeah, it's great.
I would imagine that would be like a huge confidence booster too, to be able to articulate yourself appropriately.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. It's so important. I think, some kids, this happens often. Some of the, like if the boys or girls and they don't get help and they're middle school still, like 14, 15 years old, and they've never received help. Or maybe they did and they got tired of it and they stopped doing therapy because they're like, I don't care. I'm like, one day you're going to care when you have a relationship or when you try to get a job, I'm like, so it's really important that you care. So you have to make sure the kids care.
What's the difference if you have like an early intervention? Do you say early intervention?
Yeah, early intervention.
Like with a younger kid versus like somebody that is a teenager or even an adult, like you said.
It helps because it just becomes habitual. So if you're saying the same sound wrong every time, it just becomes habitual, and it's really hard to correct it. It's so much better to do it when they're younger. Earlier the better.
So if doctors aren't noticing or saying anything and schools aren't noticing or saying anything, like how would families or kids or whoever needs to advocate for their children figure it out and like know where to go?
That's the problem. If no one's saying anything, they don't think there's a problem. So it's up to the people in the parks to say something. No, but I do think that hopefully, I really, and I think there was a thing with mask wearing, they wouldn't even see them at the doctors.
Right.
So for a few years, I think doctors maybe weren't as good as identifying speech concerns.
Right.
But it's really challenging when they're not getting, so if people aren't saying anything, they're not going to get the help they need. And I think schools aren't saying anything. Like when I was a kid, if you couldn't say a sound, you'd be put in speech.
Yeah.
And now they're saying, unless it impacts their literacy, then you don't need speech. Is that interesting?
Like shocking, actually.
Yeah. They're like, well, you can understand them. They can still spell and write, so
and
they don't
read.
need it.
Wow. Okay. So
it's really unfortunate.
Are there still speech therapists that are affiliated with like public school districts?
Yes.
So like they're like you're private.
I'm private.
But there are people that if your kid wasn't speaking appropriately, that they should be sent to like the public school speech therapist.
Yeah. But if it's just a single sound error, they're not going to get seen. They just don't, it doesn't happen anymore. They have to have multiple errors. So if it's just a lisp, they won't be seen anymore. Isn't that crazy?
That is.
So I know, it's really too bad.
And we are working your S sound today, right?
Yep.
Okay, let's do it. Say S. Okay, do you see how that tongue is coming right out? Do it again. Okay, our tongue needs to go behind our teeth. Imagine your tongue as a snake and our teeth as a cage. So we want to get the snake behind the cage, okay? Say S. Oh, perfect. Do it again. A little bit. Get it further back, Remy. Good, I know you're giggling. All right, say soup.
Soup.
So I used to do early intervention. I would do the preschool evaluating team. But now they're like, I have a set of twins that I work with, that I work privately, and the parents pay out of pocket. And like try to get your kids into free speech therapy in the preschool. And they tried, and they said they weren't unintelligible enough. It's like, well, less than 50% can understand them, but they're like still not enough. So I'm like, so they really have changed their criteria. So even these children who really could benefit from speech therapy, and I'm not just talking about the sounds, I'm talking about language. They may say like up, go, and just single words, and they need to be speaking in sentences.
Right.
And they're not getting service.
So are there any tips or clues that you can give to parents to be like looking for? Like, I think that's really great.
Yeah, and I put here, this is, I put a speech sound acquisition chart. So basically by 2 to 3 years old, you want to have the p, ba, m, d, n, h, t, k, g, w, ng, f, y. And then 4, you want to have the l, j, ch, s, v, sh, z. And then 5, the 𝘚𝘩𝘦𝘦𝘤𝘩, z. So there's a difference between voiced and voiceless. So like a voiceless, like th, like thin, and then that where it's voiced.
Oh,
so it's
okay,
like it depends if your vocal folds vibrate or not. Like or like no vibration, right?
Right.
So it's voiceless, like for an S and Z, Z. So anyhow, if your child isn't saying these sounds, or if they're not speaking, please talk to the pediatrician. Tell them, look, I need my kid to start speaking. What can I do? Can I get them evaluated? And there are places that, like a lot of clinics, and some people do take insurance. I don't personally take insurance, but I have many clients who do get reimbursed by insurance companies. And I just give them like a monthly receipt, and I give them diagnostic codes, and some of them get reimbursed for most of their services.
That's great. Does that happen? Do people get treated and do you say cured?
I don't know. I say they like get discharged.
Okay, treated and discharged from their speech impediment, and then
It's so rare.
It is. Okay, so once you beat it, you're like...
Exactly. Once they're good to go, and I don't just, as soon as they're good to go, I make sure that the family also says, yes, they're doing 100% at the house, or like 98%.
Yeah.
They're carrying it over. We really want to make sure they carry it over. So if, let's say we get the sound in therapy, like a really good proper S, but then the parents are like, guess what? He's not doing it at the house. I'm like, well, he's not ready to be discharged, so let's keep going.
Yeah.
So I make sure.
Okay.
So I've never had repeat customers.
Okay.
Like,
that's
oh,
good.
by the way, my kid lost. No, once
good
it's
good for the family, bad for business.
Yeah, exactly. No,
you could just work out for referrals.
Exactly. No, I don't see the same kids unless it's like, you know what, my kid needs a break. They're burnt out.
Right.
Can we?
But that's not a discharge.
No,
that's
I didn't discharge them.
Yeah.
No,
right.
That happens sometimes.
Okay.
They're like they're too involved in sports. They don't want to do speech right now. I'm like, sure, it's gonna be harder, but okay. I like to keep going. I don't like to take any breaks.
What's your background in? Like, I know that you said that you got into it because you can hear it from a mile away, and you're just like very aware of it.
Right.
But like, what's your background in it? Just seems like such a specific niche.
You're right. Well, you know, I got my bachelor's in speech pathology, and then you had to get your master's with lots of internships and things like that.
And you just loved it.
Yeah, I love it.
You love it.
I love it. My mom worked in special education, so I was always around kids. Like, she would have kids come over. Some of her students would come over and they had like Down syndrome or they were autistic.
Yeah.
My stepdad was autistic, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was around it a lot. So I was always
around. Did he have a speech impediment?
No, but he spoke in a monotone way, and I got to see his different social, you know, quirks and things like that. Yeah. So I've been around autistic people for many years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom was she's a retired special ed teacher.
Oh, okay. Neat.
Yeah. I thought that was the direction I would go in.
Okay.
And I do have a background in education.
Okay, but you never did special education.
I did my student teaching in special education.
Oh, okay.
I was terrible at
Really? Yeah. You are working with kids who are autistic or they have some sort of intellectual disability.
Yeah.
You're not going to see the same type of progress.
Right.
That's why I think I really like doing articulation.
Yeah. Right. It seems like they come in, this is the issue, and then we're going to treat it, and then you're going to move forward. Yeah.
And so much of what I do, I don't know if I've really talked about, there's a huge thing called a tongue tie. Okay.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that.
So I think it's really important. And so many kids who have lisps or can't say their R's, it's not just because. Usually it's because there's something wrong anatomically. So maybe there's a tongue tie, maybe they have enlarged.
Can you elaborate on what is a tongue tie?
Yes.
So people
It's like,
know to look for it?
so it's, well, I don't know if I should show it, but I have a tongue tie. Okay. So it's my frenulum underneath the tongue, that stretchy part. Okay. Some people, it goes up too high and it creates them to have a lisp or a tongue thrust, and they're swallowing improperly, and they're going to mess up their teeth. It can change the shape of their face. So it's really important. It's not just the sound. So it's like, okay, well, yeah, we want the sound to sound correct. So you're not saying wabbit or soup. But besides that, and when I first started, I've been a therapist 20 years now.
Wow.
When I first started, I never even really looked in the mouth, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I never even look. Now I always check the mouth. I check the swallow. I always do. Like, let me look. Let me look underneath the tongue. Let me look at your palate. I look for a lot of different things. Because sometimes they need to do myofunctional therapy as well.
Which is what?
That's when they work on like more of they do more swallowing. They work on different tongue exercises. So a proper position is having your tongue flat up against the roof of your mouth. And most people have it. That's how it should be, right? When our mouths are closed, our tongue is suctioned against to the roof of our mouth. When you have a tongue tie, or maybe you have enlarged tonsils or adenoids, your tongue is like low, like people with open mouth posture, like something like this. You see people with their mouth open. And then they're swallowing wrong, and they're pushing against their bottom teeth over and over in the wrong, like you swallow thousands of times a day. So you're practicing that wrong swallow, and then you have a lisp too. So anyhow, it's really important that these kids don't just get seen for speech, but we really need to fix their swallow too. And that's something I do help with, is fixing their swallow.
Okay.
This is one of the first questions I ask patients, or I ask the parents at intake, like, did you nurse? Did you have any problems latching? Because so often, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because I'll notice a lisp, and then I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Did your kid nurse okay? And they're like, no. Like, I couldn't latch, my breasts were engorged, and I had multiple infections.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, that's because of the improper latch.
Interesting. So what is the process? What is your intake process? You meet somebody on the park or whatever.
Or now it's like referral from dentists or doctors.
Sign up for
like
your services.
Or the park.
Yeah. What's how does your intake process go? How do you establish what needs to be worked on? It sounds like now you do like a mouth inspection.
Yeah, I do like an oral mech. Sometimes if it's something where it is language based, I'm not necessarily doing that. Sometimes it is just getting them to work on like sentences and more words, things like that. So, but usually when the parent calls me, I just set up a time, and if I'm seeing them in person or if I see them virtually, and I just kind of start. For me, some people will do an evaluation every time. I don't necessarily do an evaluation every time. A lot of therapists are like, what? But for me, I just feel like it's not necessary.
Yeah.
And it saves them money.
Yeah.
Because evaluations are very lengthy and expensive. And and because it's private, I don't have to.
Right.
So
you just like have a conversation and see.
I'll know instantly within minutes what I need to work on. And if during, like, let's say day 2, I'm like, oh, we need to work on this too. I'll just add it.
Right.
I just think parents, for the most part, they seem to be very happy that they're not paying for a full evaluation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessary.
Right. I mean, if you can tell what the issues are, just dive right into like help.
Exactly. I'll just tell them. And I don't love paperwork.
Yeah.
A lot of our job, especially working in the schools, is paperwork, and I don't like it. So if I can avoid it, also like they can't say these sounds, or this is what we need to work on. Sound good?
Yeah.
They're like, thank you. Oh, sure.
That's great.
And parents don't want to hear when I do a full comprehensive evaluation. They scored, the 10th percentile.
It doesn't matter. Like
it's mean.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like saying that they're below average in all areas.
Yeah. No.
I'll just say this is the kind of stuff we need to work on.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. So I'm not a type A therapist, like a lot of us are. A lot of speech pathologists are. I'm not.
Okay.
I do my own thing.
Yeah, that's great. I love it.
Meeting people at the park, was it? Because it's true. A lot of my friends and my colleagues are like, what? You tell people? I'm like, guess what?
I think it's actually really generous and bold of you to be able to go up to a stranger and say, hey, this is my job, and I just wanted you to know that I can hear this.
Right. I do.
Have you ever had somebody respond negatively?
Yes.
Yeah. I would imagine.
Yeah. Or I'll ask the parents, your child's speaking.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Well, these are some of the things you need to look for. Here's my card. Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Or if you want to, or sometimes I get people, if they're interested, like a free 15-minute consultation. If they have questions.
That's great.
I'm happy to offer that to people. Yeah.
How do you get somebody who's completely nonverbal to start speaking?
Some people, they will never will.
They never will.
So I have to teach them other things. So I do a lot of paper choices for them. Like I, write on a piece of paper, like, I want to go here. I don't want to go here. And I'm like, do you want to go outside? And then I show the paper and just work on the pointing so they at least have a way to communicate.
Wow.
So certain kids just won't speak. Yeah.
Ever.
What?
Ever.
No, they won't. Or there's things called augmentative communication devices. So they do a lot of, it's like an iPad with different, and this is not my specialty. I haven't been trained in these kind of devices, but I still work with these kids with them. And they do sentences like, I want to go shopping, or my favorite color is red. So they can contribute to the conversation.
Read.
Well, yeah.
They can identify the words that they want to use, but they just can't formulate them.
Some of these kids have something called apraxia, which is a motor planning problem. So even it's not just their verbal speech, but sometimes it impacts their writing. They can't point even accurately. There's something that's really cool that we're doing at one of these schools. It's called the RPM, Rapid Prompt Method.
Oh, cool.
And it's basically a letter board. So like A, B, C, D, F, G. And I have one kid. It's the most incredible thing. First of all, he's 9 years old.
Yeah.
Never had any type of communication. They tried multiple things from other therapists. And then he learned this new method. And he can say the most beautiful things all by touching. I mean, it takes a while, but he can do it.
Wow.
Like people say, he wrote this beautiful thing about me. Like, I love Shayna and I'm so glad she is supportive. It was the most incredible thing. Or I hope my brother's proud of me. And he can really, all by just touching. I'll have to forward you this video. It's one of the most incredible things. But for me, it's like total communication.
Yeah.
Whatever we can do. If it's not speaking, then what can we do?
Right.
I also do sign language.
Oh, really?
I should have, backstory, I took 4 semesters of sign language, so I do know sign. And I used to use it, and I still do, all the time. So,
look at you.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, I know the letters. But yeah, I do. So I did sign before I became speech therapy. I forgot about that. Yeah, I did sign language. Sequencing is not my strong point. Kids have problems with sequencing. I'm like, oh, great. I don't know. I can't help you with that. I'm not even sure. It's out of order. So.
I'm going to tell you my story, and it might start in the end.
Don't even try to have me describe a movie to you. Okay, this is why I don't specialize in language disorders. I specialize in articulation.
Communication, it sounds like, actually was what you specialize in, is like helping people be able to effectively communicate.
Yeah. Whatever it is. I can't only, yes, I do a lot of articulation, but also I help kids in any way.
Well, you help kids that don't speak communicate.
I do all the time.
So that has nothing to do with articulation.
Nothing. No. That's what I'm saying. Half. I work with kids who wouldn't even address articulation with them, even if they have speech impediment.
Do you work with deaf kids?
I have, but I don't currently have anyone now on my caseload.
Okay.
But I have. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
A lot of therapists do more play-based, and I do, to make it most effective, I aim for about 300 words a session.
Wow, that's a lot.
A lot. So like tiger, whatever. I don't know. I do a ton of drill.
Yeah. Can you run through what you, let's say that I came in and I had a speech impediment, would run through a session with, I just stuttered.
Yeah. What would I do?
Yeah.
I would say, all right, we need to get your tongue further back. We need our sides of our back of our teeth our sides of our tongue to touch our back molars. they have to stick up there to say the R sound. So a lot of kids, like, let's say it's called gliding. If they're saying Ryan or Ryan, right? I'm like, okay, you're using your lips for the W. We need to get our tongue back, up and back. So we got to get the sides touching our back teeth. Otherwise, it's not going to make the R sound. So you hold it back there and say Yeah. And you can most people don't get it the first try. So very good. Good. Now we're going to say robot.
Robot.
Perfect. Raccoon.
Raccoon.
Radio.
Radio.
Perfect. So much of it is shaping their tongue and putting it in the right position.
Yeah. That's really cool. I love what you do.
Thanks. I do too. It's
Yeah.
a good career, and it's very rewarding.
So how do people find you?
SpeechTherapySantaCruz.com. You can find me there. And feel free to send me an email or call me if you have any questions, or if you would like a free 15-minute consultation. Happy to let you know if I see any concerns, or if you have any concerns, I'm happy to answer any questions.
It was my pleasure to introduce to you Shayna Labadie, Speech Therapy Santa Cruz. If you or anybody that you know needs a 15-minute free consultation, she is offering so that she can analyze the speech patterns. Do you say speech patterns?
Sure.
Speech patterns or improper articulation.
Yeah, that works too.
And help you conquer your speech issues.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's fix these. Let's fix it.
I think this is going to be your new tagline. Shayna Labadie, Speech Therapy Santa Cruz, helping your children build confidence through improving their speech.
Okay, I like that. That's good. That's a good one.
Gosh, like as soon as the camera goes on, I'm like, I had all these great questions, and now I'm like, what?
Sure. Yeah.
I've like completely, like my brain just shut off. What's your website?
So, gosh, oh God. I know I should know that. Okay, so it's Speech Therapy Santa Cruz.